Ladies and gents, how you doing? We've been talking a lot about new visitors to the UK doing all manner of appalling things like fiddling with people's children and blowing stuff up and stabbing people in the eye and the usual. It's starting to get a little bit boring, isn't it? You can only talk about unvetted, hairy-ass foreign men entering the country illegally, being given a council house, and then surprise sexing a few dozen women while the police and the government don't do anything about it or turn a blind eye or assist them in some cases. You can only read about that so many times before it starts to get a bit boring. So I'm pleased to say we can go back to our roots, which is good old-fashioned left-wing cheats rigging elections. I mean, we haven't talked about that too much lately, have we? It's just taken as a given that if you're left-wing, you're more than happy to cheat, rig, ban people. I mean, you remember back in the day when I read that Time magazine article because they couldn't resist gloating about cheating Trump in 2020, and then YouTube started banning everyone that even dared talk about it or read you the article that they happily published themselves. I'm sure you remember that lot. But it's been a while since we talked about the constant cheating and devious machinations of the socialist scum in the United Kingdom. So I thought we'd cover a couple of stories today, all related to cheating. And if you think this is peculiar, I might remind you, well, Zach said this last week.
There are people, though, who would identify as right-wing or indeed even far-right. And no matter what humanity or community we put them in, they are set on destroying or pushing this toxicity. Do we think we can change their minds, or is it a case of building a society that doesn't include them?
Can you say that again? Just the way you said it.
Or is it a case of building a society that doesn't...
Yeah, so for those of you that are sceptical and think maybe I'm being hyperbolic and it's not commonplace for them to cheat, well, you do well to remember what he's just said there, because essentially they think it's just and moral to basically build an apartheid society. I mean, what's he going to do? Put us all on the Isle of Wight and then patrol it with the Navy? These people are completely deranged. So I'll read you the two stories I'm talking about and I'll give you my thoughts, but I played you that as some food for thought because I just want you to process this yourself, right? Do you think people that happily talk about gulagging people that politely disagree with them, do you think people like that, who openly come out and talk about segregating you from society or worse, do you think people like that would shy away from cheating in an election? Do you? Because if you do, you probably think Diane Abacus is a back-to-back countdown champion. Right, the first story that I want to talk about dropped a couple of weeks back, actually. It was beginning of April, and it was yet another Mighty Mo running in the Glasgow Southside constituency. Funny old thing, he happens to be another Labour candidate, and he's been replaced after being charged with fraud. Nice one. The 43-year-old appeared at Ayr Sheriff's Court. He entered no plea and was granted bail. A party spokesman said Scottish Labour holds its candidates to the highest standards of honesty and integrity. Really? You do? So what's with all of the endless kiddie fiddling? But what's that all about? How come I can't go a single week without opening BBC News and reading a story about one of your councillors that's been nicked for having a hard drive that has so much illegal, youthful material that it'd make Gary Glitter puke in his mouth a little bit? Okay. Or fully get nicked for drugging someone's drink, rifling through an old lady's biscuit tins, or stealing candy from a baby. The Labour Party is a sewer. They love talking about scandal when Boris Johnson was in charge. It's been endless scandal since the androgynous android took the job in the first place. I'm sick of reading about fraud and, paedophilia. It's unending. Alas, I can't cover them all. I'd be here all week. But if you pay attention, you know exactly what I'm talking about. On to the bigger case. 4 of them have been charged and up in court soon. This was in Croydon. It says a former councillor close to Tony Newman and Simon Hall and a friend of Steve Reid. You all know Steve Reid doesn't shut up talking bollocks on social media, doesn't actually do his day job, but he's always on the socials giving it Billy Big Licks. Apparently, they're all his cronies and they're all due in court next month following a lengthy police investigation. There he is, Joel Bodmer and Fieldway councillor Carol Bonner are among 4 people who've been charged with conspiracy and computer misuse in relation to irregularities surrounding Labour's 2023 candidate selection process for the Croydon East parliamentary seat. Bodmer, who worked closely with local MP Steve Reid on Croydon campaigning in 2021 and 22, is also charged with perverting the course of justice in relation to allegedly altering phone records. So that is just full-blown cheating, as usual. Also, I'll point out, it's nice to see the word pervert written in a story about a Labour councillor and it not being a reference to one of these reprobates sending the world Hugh Edwards-style arse-cheek photographs. So, I mean, that's a pleasant turn-up for the books at least. It continues. The Met handed its case files to the CPS in September last year, but news of the criminal charges were only released today, just as postal ballots for the May 7th local elections were dropping onto doormats across the borough. Not looking good for them then, is it? I mean, I'd argue that the constant reports of people like Ivor Kaplan and Eric Joyce and Roger Spackman, and wasn't there one last week as well? Yeah, there it is, 4 days ago. This deviant. He was only an MP's aide, though, Conor McGrath. And obviously, he got spared jail because Sam Mellier printed some politely worded stickers, so he definitely deserved jail. And Lucy Connolly, she definitely deserved jail because she was a bit rude on the internet. Whereas the MP's aide, that's got a hard drive that would get any one of us sentenced to 8 years in prison, he gets let off because he's an MP's aide. So, back to this one. I'd argue that the Mandelson appointment scandal is the least of their worries. I mean, because what do you think's the bigger deal? The Prince of Darkness acting like the Prince of Darkness, like he always does, taking dodgy money off the Chinese and the Russians and anyone else who'll pay him because he's got the moral fibre of a sewer rat. Or, dozens of Labour councillors and politicians basically functioning as well-dressed Jimmy Saviles. I mean, that's what they are, aren't they? They're Jimmy Savile in a nice Savile Row suit rather than a ugly shell suit. Scotland Yard issued the following statement this morning to Inside Croydon, saying that 4 people have been charged with computer misuse following a Met investigation, and the CPS has authorised charges against all of them after an investigation by the cybercrime unit found that a Labour Party database was manipulated to increase a candidate's chances of selection. They're just awful, aren't they? Awful. So there we go. He also works as an organiser with the Unison Trades Union. Of course he does, because they're like the mafia, aren't they? The trade unions are just like the Soprano family. It's unbelievable how corrupt and filthy all the left-wing parties are. They've got no moral fibre. None of them. Sinn Féin, Plaid Cymru, the SNP, they're all the same. And the Greens, obviously, the cherry on top. At least Zach's open about it. You can see why these people, with no moral concerns at all, condemn millions to death and starvation and famine. And we know why, don't we? It's because that famous quote everybody likes to mention from C.S. Lewis. You remember this one, don't you? Of all tyrannies, tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims is the most oppressive. It's better to live under robber barons than omnipotent moral busybodies, because the robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep. That is exactly what I'm talking about, and that is exactly what Zach showed us in that mask-off moment in his little interview that's doing the rounds, isn't it? This is the real problem. The reason socialists and communists and lefties of all stripes are so duplicitous and willing to cheat and lie and backstab and basically do anything you can possibly think of is because they don't get pricked by the conscience. That's exactly what Zach was telling you when he was daft enough to come right out and say it. They think that they're good people no matter what they do. If you're a Labour MP, you can have a hard drive full of Category A images that would make Gary Glitter bring his breakfast up, right? And you can tell yourself you're a good person. You can be a serial sex criminal with Chinese and Russian money in a duffel bag stashed in your spare room. And you can convince yourself and all your friends that you're a good person because you go on the internet and you say nice things all the time. Think of that. You can even cut a small child's balls off and tell yourself, I did that because I'm a moral and decent person. And when people like us go, Yeah, I mean, I've got no issue with anyone. You know, grown men should be able to live however they want, unmolested. But should you really be doing that to a kid? They'll go, evil, evil, lock him up, put him in the gulag, segregate him for society, dump him on the Isle of Wight. Whatever Zach's nefarious plan is for everyone. Because remember, he didn't just say the far right, did he? He didn't say extremists. He said this.
There are people, though, who would identify as right-wing or indeed even far-right, and no matter
Yeah, right wing or even far right. So basically, Zach's plan is to put 40 million people on the Isle of Wight and then, like, I don't know, bomb it with Agent Orange or something. And not only would he happily do it, he'd feel like he was doing a good thing because he was ridding the world of the bad people. Makes loads of sense, doesn't it? So, anyway, to sum up, these guys are cheats. Of course they are, because they think it's moral to cheat as long as you're going up against bad people. This guy's a cheat because, of course, he is. Thinks he's the good guy and you're the villain. This guy's a diddler, so he fits in perfectly with the Labour Party. And this guy knows exactly why they're all happy to behave like human scum. All right? Anyway, that's me for the day. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, as usual, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Toodle pip. Cheers.